following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco and across the moat from Oakland. We're in the northern part of the state, and it's been kind of a beautiful week. I hate to say this, most of my listeners are from back east, and you guys have been struggling with all kinds of weather. So I hope this offering will take your mind off it a little bit and sit back and enjoy, because I get to talk to some of the most interesting people on the planet on a very, very regular basis. And today is no exception. My guest is a Renaissance man. He's Steve Bluestein. And first time to these microphones, very happy to have you. Hello,
well,
Steve.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah. You're in L.A. Am I?
I am in rainy L.A. It has been raining here for three days.
It rains, and but it doesn't storm like in the Midwest.
But last night we had thunderstorms. We had nonstop thunderstorms. Yeah, it was scary. You know, because Los Angeles, we're not used to water falling from the sky. You know, it rains in my neighborhood. People go out in the street and look up and go, "What is that?" You know, it's not.
You grew up back east.
Yeah.
Did you know to escape early on, or how was it?
Are you kidding? The joke I use is that when I threw my hat up at graduation into the air, by the time it landed on the floor, I was in New York.
Okay. That's beautiful. Tell me about your career a little bit in your own words.
Well, I was on the ground floor of the comedy explosion. I started in 1971 when the Comedy Store opened its doors. I was living in an apartment complex in Hollywood, and I was the one who would be sitting around by the pool, and everybody would be laughing, and I was making people laugh. And Dave Madden, who happened to be Reuben on the Partridge Family, he lived in the apartment building, and one day he pulled me aside and he said, "You know, you could do this professionally." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes. There's a club that just opened up on the Strip. It's called the Comedy Store. Sammy Shore opened it." He said, "And I'm going to take you there." And there was another guy who lived in the building whose name is Albert Hammond. Albert has since been an Emmy Award-winning composer and songwriter, but at the time he had just come here from England, and he overheard Dave telling me that I could be a comedian, and he popped up and said, "He's right, Steve, you could do this." So the three of us went to the Comedy Store the next night, and I sat in the audience, and I watched what was going on on stage, and I said to myself, I could do that. You know, I could do that. And the following week, I went back to the Comedy Store. I got on stage, the first time in my life, and Sammy Shore came up to me after my performance, and he said, "You keep coming back, kid, because you have the sound. You have the sound." And I didn't know what he meant at the time, but I do now. He meant that there's a sound that comedians have where they're comfortable on stage when they talk, and they know where they're going. And I had that sound naturally. So I did. I took his advice. I kept coming back. If he had said nothing, I would have gone home and never tried it again. But I kept coming back, and I went back to the Comedy Store every night for the next 2 years until one night I was at the Improv, and I got off stage, and there was a guy, I can see it like it happened yesterday. There was a long hallway that went from the showroom into the front bar, and I was standing in that hallway, and from the showroom, out of the darkness, this man approaches me, and he said, I saw you at the Comedy Store 2 weeks ago. It was the first time I laughed in 2 weeks. I'm Gary Weinberg. I'm an agent at ICM, and I'd like to sign you. And it was that easy. And I said, you would? He said, yes. Here's my secretary's number. Call us tomorrow. I called him the next day, and I was in his office the day after that and signing papers by Friday. And when I got signed to ICM, which was one of the biggest agencies in town, much like William Morris and APA is today, I suddenly went from this stage of the Comedy Store to the stage of Sahara's in Tahoe. And I continued to work like that for years, opening for Donna Summer and Barry Manilow and Miss Melissa Manchester, Kenny Loggins, Frankie Valli, Tower of Power. I mean, the list is endless. Seals and Crofts, Rita Moreno, Andy Williams. I mean, I just worked and worked and worked until you're out of town so much. The thing for a comedian is that you want to get on a TV series, because that's national exposure. And while I was doing like all the talk shows and the variety shows as a guest, you don't get that kind of exposure that you have when you have a series. But I was never in town for pilot season. I was always on the road. So I made my agents booked me in Atlantic City, and it was very good money. And he called me, and I said to him, what time are the shows? There were 2 shows. He said 3 and 5. I said, 3 and 5? In the morning? 3 in the morning and 5 in the morning? He said, no, 3 in the afternoon and 5 in the afternoon. And I went, no, those are the bus tours coming in from New York with the old ladies from New Jersey. That's not my crowd. And he said to me, look, if you don't take this gig, we're going to drop you. And I said, thank you. And we parted ways. And that's
not the only job you ever quit. Steve Joyner, who got us together, told me, impressed me with your attitude of, hey, if you don't like me, I'm out of here. And if I don't like you, I'm out of here. So,
life's way too short. Life's way too short to be abused or to be taken advantage of. And I will not put up with that. I just won't. But after I stopped touring, which I'd been doing for 10 years, I was left with nothing to do. And then I got a phone call one night from Fred Willard's wife, Mary, and she said, Steve, I'm joining this writer's workshop. And I thought, what a great idea. So I joined Carol Moore's Pat on the Back workshop. And I'd always wanted to be a playwright. Because I went to Emerson College in Boston, and my first love was the theater. And I thought, oh, well, this will be easy. I'll just write plays. So I got in Carol's workshop. I wrote 7 plays in 2 years, and
wow.
We've had a couple of productions. As a matter of fact, I'm going back to New York City on May 13th. They're doing another staged reading of my play Rest in Pieces, and we're hoping to get that to New York, either off Broadway or Broadway. And so I became a playwright, and then we had productions in Maryland, we had productions in New York, we had in Boston, we had productions, and again, it was like, okay, I did that, now what? So I was sitting at home one day, and the garage door fell on my car and crushed it, and at the same time, I had hired a handyman to get the garage door off my car, and he trapped himself in the garage, and he couldn't get out. And in the middle of that, I got a phone call. It was Carol Propp, who is a casting producer, and she cast the Tonys. And we worked on a show together. We worked on, I think it was the Candid Camera at Universal. And she said, "What's doing, Steve?" And I started to, well, the car fell, the garage door fell on my car, and the guy's trapped inside, and he's got to go to the bathroom. He's got to go to the bathroom, and she's laughing hysterically. She's laughing, and she said to me, "You have to write a book." And like a light went off in my head, and I went, "Yeah, that's a great idea." So I sat down that day, and I started writing, and I wrote for 3 years every day. And the result of that was a book called Memoir of a Nobody, which is available, just was published last year. It's available on Amazon and Nook and Barnes and Noble. It's gotten 65-star reviews, and no one is more surprised than I am how the public has just embraced this book. It was a bestseller the first week it was out. And now I have a second book coming out called Take My Prostate, Please. And that's
an old Henny Youngman line.
No, it's not. Take My Wife, Please is Henny Youngman.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. Of course.
But
take off
this chronicles my battle with prostate cancer. And my agent said, only you could make prostate cancer funny. And so that book will be out next year, I think. I just heard from my publisher.
I'm sorry you're going through.
Well, I'm cancer free. I'm cancer free now. I had the surgery, and thank God, knock on wood, everything's good. But it was, it wasn't fun. I don't.
Oh.
But it's, it's like life deals you little pieces of crap, and you have to deal with it. So I was dealing with it.
Absolutely.
So that's my career in a nutshell. Thanks. See you later, guys.
I'm glad you got through it. Let me put it to you that way. You know how you can help teach our audience, my audience, something really important? Tell us about the life on the road of a comedian.
Yeah, well,
because there's a lot of people that, well, look at him. He's got all he does a couple hours a night, and he opens for this star and that star, and it's such a, it's one. I did comedy in the 80s and the 90s, so I know. But in your words, what's the road like?
Well, when you're talking about places like Reno, Vegas, Sparks, Tahoe, they are venues that cater to entertainers, so you're treated with respect. When you're talking about ha-has in San Diego, you're less important to them than the beer, and it's a nightmare. And I detested working in those clubs just for that reason. And I saw comedy go from being an art form, because when I started, we worked on our craft. I mean, we were up day and night writing jokes, crafting jokes. As a matter of fact, I remember I was working, and I think it was with Rita Moreno in Chicago, and the waitress came up to me and she said, "You've told that same joke every night a different way." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm not satisfied with the joke, with the laugh I'm getting, so I'm looking for just the right words." And then I found it, and then she understood. So when you're working those venues, it's fine. When you're working the little comedy clubs, it's a nightmare. And I can say without exception, I worked 100 different comedy clubs. There are only 2 that I really enjoyed, and that is in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Comedy Connection, because the owners, Chick and Patty Perrin, treated us like we were family, because they realized that it was because of us that they had audiences. People were coming to see us, not the club. and they treated us well. But there are other clubs like in San Jose and Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the club owners were less than kind, and it made life miserable for me.
Okay.
But
you got to choose where you were going to work, and you realized that you didn't, you weren't compatible with that kind of booking.
No, I'm very much a homebody. My home was on HGTV for its design. I enjoy staying home. And when I was working on the road, I had to share some filthy little condo. It wasn't even a condo; it was an apartment with two strangers for a week, and put up with their idiosyncrasies, their alcoholism, their drug abuse, whatever it was. I had to put up with it, and I wasn't comfortable doing it. I'm
Right.
just not that kind of person. So
Right.
I'm much happier now. I have an office in my home, and I go up and I write every day something, even if it's a suicide note. I'm up there writing it, and
you got to get that worded just correctly. And
right,
it's
exactly.
A punch word. It's a punch word, not a punch line.
Well,
you know that.
Yeah, it's definitely a word that will spring the joke. But I'm working on my third book called Memoirs of a Nobody 2, and that'll be out the year after, not next year, but the year after. So I'm trying to get a book out a year if I can.
What are you happiest doing, performing or writing?
Writing, absolutely writing. There's so much anxiety that I have when I perform because, with a live audience, you never know what the mix is going to be. For instance, a Friday night show in Vegas is a lot harder than a Saturday night show in Vegas. And that's because people have been to work on Friday, and then they rush home, and they get dressed, and they come to the show on Friday. They're exhausted. So they're enjoying the show, but they're less demonstrative. On Saturday, they've relaxed all day. They're probably drinking. They're in the casino. They're drinking. And then they come to the show. They're a lot looser, and you have a lot more fun. So every time you get on stage, you never know what you're going to get. And it's, and like most comedians, or maybe not, for me, it's always, this is the show that no one's going to laugh. This is the one. So it causes me great anxiety. I don't have that when I write. When I write, it's free-flowing out of me. No one's there to say yay or nay, and I enjoy the process. I enjoy the rewriting. I enjoy reading the book 6 times, just finding that little gem or adding a word here or taking a word away there. I describe it like having a big block of marble and then chipping it away and chipping it away and chipping it away till you finally end up with the statue that you want, and then polishing it and
putting in commas and taking out commas. How about that?
The first show that I worked on was the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, and Carl Kleinschmidt was the head writer, and he said to me, Steve, writing is rewriting, and so don't be afraid to go back and change what you've written. You can always make it better. In some cases, you can make it worse, but in my case, I like to work where I'll just sit down at the computer and just pour out all my thoughts in the first draft, and then I'll go back and fill it in. You give it color and depth and warmth, but I need to get the main thoughts down on the screen so that I can then embellish it, and that's the word I'm looking for, embellish.
Who did you laugh at when you were growing up?
Jonathan Winters. Jonathan Winters had me hysterical from day one, and I used to do...
Blabby, I think he did that originally.
No, Marty Frickett.
But But Aunt Flabby was a takeoff. Carson did a takeoff.
Oh, Carson did everybody. Carson, the psychic was Jackie Gleason, and the slow takes were Jack Benny. I mean, he took from everybody and made them his own. But you know, I loved Jonathan Winters. I loved Jack Benny. I loved I can see his name. I can't remember. The great one, Gleason. You know, I loved Danny Kaye. You know, I pulled a little bit from everybody. But the funny thing is, after doing it for so many years, I'm none of those people now. I'm myself. You know,
Do you remember Hans Christian Andersen?
Of course.
With Danny Kaye.
The first film I ever saw.
Oh, yeah. That probably, if you're like me, set the tone for joy in comedy.
Well, I don't know about comedy, but for me personally, it was the only time that my mother and father and I went out as a family to do anything together with happiness, because they were divorced.
I didn't mean, happiness, not comedy per se, but just joy. There was joy.
He was a joyful performer, Danny Kaye. He was a miserable human being, but he was a joyful performer.
I didn't know that he was a miserable human being.
Oh yeah. I was so disappointed when I found out, because I was so enamored with him.
Yeah. What I remember most from Danny Kaye after Hans Christian Andersen, and boy, there's so many stuff, was the Dodgers song that he sung. I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but he sung a song about Hiller to Miller, just a parody of the Giants playing the Dodgers and O'Malley making big money. And
well, you know, his wife wrote all those songs. She wrote everything.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I think her last name was Silverstein. I may be wrong, but she was very famous in her own right on the other side of the not to the public, but within the business. She was very well known, and she was a writer, and she wrote all, you know, the vessel with the pestle and all that. She wrote all that stuff.
Whoa, I thought that was all him. And
no, it was all her.
Wife, I also, not as Jerry and George would say, not that it matters, not that it makes a difference. I thought he was gay.
Well, there are rumors about Danny Kaye and Sir Laurence Olivier. They owned homes back to back in Beverly Hills, and there are lots of rumors. But you know, I don't take credence in any of those rumors, because unless you're in the bed with them, you don't know. But I mean, I've heard it from reliable.
You shouldn't care either, but
right, exactly. I've heard it from very reliable sources, people who knew that knew them both, and swore up and down that it was true. But I don't know.
Okay, who makes you laugh today? The young comedians? Anybody that?
None of the young comedians make me laugh.
Oh,
I like Howie Mandel a lot. I like Paula Poundstone is hilarious.
She's up from your part of the woods in Massachusetts. That's
yeah.
Originally.
Right. She's from Massachusetts as well. Paula Poundstone. I like. Let's see. I told you Howie. Bill Burr. I like. And John Mulvaney. I can never remember that. John Mulvaney, I think his name is. He just hosted Saturday Night Live. I think he's one of the best guys to come along in a long time. He's really funny. His attitude is funny. His material is smart. You know, some of these comedians that are coming up, you know, my generation, we learned from people in film and vaudeville and television. The comedians that are coming up today are learning from each other. So there's a generic sound that's being created where they all sound exactly alike. and they're all talking about the same stuff, and they all deliver in the same manner, and it's boring to me. And I I've been invited to comedy shows. There's no way I will go. Close friends, because I have young comic friends. They invite me, come see my show. I said, yeah, I'd rather have a root canal. I just don't want to sit. I just don't want to sit and listen to that.
Yeah. In our generation, and I go back further than you, but we almost needed permission from our parents to do what we do. And if we were going to get into something that entailed a risk, given their upbringing of either escaping the war or depression, what have you, it became an issue. Were your parents supportive of your doing what
let me just say, in the 35 years that I was on the road, my mother never came to a single show. Not one. And would tell her friends, I just don't find him funny. And said to me, what did you write a book about? Nobody cares about your life. Does that answer your question?
That does indeed.
My father, on the other hand, took a plane and 2 buses to come see me in Atlantic City. And the strangest thing was, after he passed away, I'll be right out! After someone's got their hand on their horn out in front of my house. Could you hear that?
Okay, you want to come back to this? We'll cut it short, and you'll be back next time.
No. I mean, it's not my house. I mean, they're gone now.
Oh, I thought they were waiting for you to come out.
No. I was making a joke. Someone was sitting with their hand on the. What was I talking about? What was I saying?
We were talking about the loving support you got from your father.
Oh yeah, my dad. He took a plane and 2 buses to see me in Atlantic City, and after he passed away, I found photographs of him and my uncles doing comedy, which I never knew they did, and pictures of my father in a World War II uniform on stage telling stories. And now here's an interesting side note. My family's from Russia on both sides, and I have a Russian travel agent, and so I was talking to him, and I said, my family's from Russia, and he said, really, where? And I said to him, Odessa, and he said, well, you must have a good sense of humor, and I was shocked. I said, I'm a comedy writer. Why do you say that? He said, well, Odessans are known for their sense of humor. He says, as a matter of fact, there is a comedy festival that goes back centuries. I had no idea. I had no idea. None. So it's really something genetic. And then as
I was just going to say, it's in the genes. And
it's in the genes.
There's that old adage about that. This is the story that proves the adage. Wow.
Yeah, and when I think about it, my cousins on my father's side have the exact same sense of humor as I do. My cousin Bobby, who is a programmer, a computer programmer, he writes me jokes that sound like I've written them. My cousin David's the same way. They have that gene. On my mother's side,
they have your voice. In other words,
they have my voice. Yeah. And on my mother's side, they were the families from Lithuania and from Kiev, and they have no sense of humor, none. And I was caught right in the middle between the 2 families. When I tell you, being with them is like being at a funeral. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. I am half Russian and half Polish. And,
so you tell jokes, but you screw them up.
I heard I heard the best Polish joke I've ever heard.
Go ahead.
what's his name, McDonald. McDonald.
Norm MacDonald, yeah. I know him,
that
yes.
Was this joke. He says he's got some Polish blood, and he goes into a restaurant, and no, I'm sorry. Let me start again. He's got some Polish. That he go. Well, I wasn't prepared to be on stage, but he talks. He orders.
All right, this is your fourth start.
He orders a Polish dog, and the guy says, "You must be Polish," and he says, "Wait a minute. If I order a Polish dog, you automatically assume I'm Polish? What if I ordered a bratwurst? Would you assume I'm German? What if I ordered a knish? Would you assume I'm Jewish?" He says, "No, but this is a hardware store."
All right. Do you want to hear this is the best joke I've heard in 20 years, and it was just told to me by Roberta Kent. And I don't tell jokes. I have jokes that I string together into a piece, into a line. But I don't do two Jews walk into a bar. I don't do that. But Roberta told me this joke. It made me laugh so hard that I got on the phone and I must have called 30 people to tell them this joke, and I'm going to tell it to you right now. So this woman goes into a pharmacy, and she goes up to the pharmacist and she says, "I want cyanide to kill my husband." And the pharmacist says, "I can't give you cyanide to kill your husband." And the woman reaches into her purse and she pulls out a picture and she says, "This is my husband with your wife." And the pharmacist says, "Well, you didn't tell me you had a prescription." I absolutely love that joke.
That's beautiful.
I just love that joke.
That is absolutely beautiful.
Isn't that a great joke?
That is a beautiful joke. You didn't tell me you had a prescription.
Well, in the business we call that that's a keeper. That's like a perfect joke. It's like a perfect joke. It's fast, it's funny, and the punchline is unexpected, and that's what makes people laugh.
Well, I'll tell you my favorite joke, and it's a little crude, but here you go. The priest says to the rabbi, says, "You've been my friend for 40 years. Would you like to fuck an altar boy?" And the rabbi says, "At a what?" That's
bad.
That's bad, but it's funny, right?
Yeah, it's funny,
all
but
right.
I'm kind of sensitive with all anti-Semitism.
I am too. And
I'm kind of sensitive with that putz in the White House. What? Go ahead.
Yeah, we could talk for.
Don't get me started. Do not get me started. Do not get me started.
Today was even a better day than yesterday because his attorney Cohen testifies again. And he brings checks. He brings like 15 copies of the same type of check he brought the first time for the payments. They've got this guy so dead to right that. But you know what? So when I was a child, I learned if you're going to hide something, you don't write a check. You pay cash for it. The president of the United States doesn't even have enough brains not to write a check where there's a paper trail. I mean, at least the vice president back in Spiro Agnew had the sense to take it and take a bag full of cash. That's exactly right. It's a sense of entitlement, a sense that I'm above the law. I could write a check and put it out there, and they won't believe it. What can they do? If the country's going good, how could they impeach me? It's the old, I could shoot someone in broad daylight in Fifth Avenue, and no one would arrest me. I mean, he actually believes that. He does? I also believe he's the most dangerous president we've ever had. And I'm working daily to make sure that he doesn't get a second term. I would like to see the Democratic Party come together on the left side.
On somebody.
Right. Good
right
news
now they have a
is,
basketball team. What?
I wrote a little thing. Hillary decided not to run, and I don't think Biden is going to run. So
I hope he doesn't run. I mean, he's a wonderful guy, and I like him a lot. But let's be honest about this. He's what? He's 80-something years old. He's 78 years old.
70-something, but
he's 70. But if
old
8
enough.
Years, he's old enough.
But you can say the same thing about Bernie too, if you just want to go by age.
Well, yeah, I feel the same way about Bernie. I don't want to take the chance of the president passing away and then we're left with we don't know what. I would like to see somebody who's there for the full term.
You could get a combination of Bernie and say Kamala Harris or
I love her. I do
Yeah.
love her a lot. Yeah, I do. I know she's San Francisco based, but I saw a documentary on her, and I saw a documentary. It wasn't on her. It was on same-sex marriage, and I saw how she fought for a couple to get married, and I thought, that's and when they were, and she stood next to them when they got married, and there was such joy in her face when they got married. I thought, this is a real person. I like this person. So I hope that she gets it.
She's one of the people. You use the word real. Most of these people are just absolutely phony. You can see it. You see it in their eyes. They don't make eye contact with the camera or the interviewer, and
it's definitely time for a woman. It's definitely time for a woman to be president. Absolutely, it is time.
No question.
It is time.
No question. So maybe it'll be her. I think Elizabeth Warren, who was my first choice back when, kind of shot herself in the foot with the Native Americans. With the Native American.
It's true. She made a dumb mistake, but they all make dumb mistakes. It's the ones that get caught.
It's the ones that lie about it and back up the lie. It's not the ones that make a mistake and say, I made a mistake. I am going to do better. This is that, or tried something, it didn't work. But
I mean, like Obama did. Like Obama I always remember Obama saying, I take responsibility. I guess I'll have to take responsibility from that. You never heard the present president say those
You'll
words.
Never
it's
hear
always somebody else. He's president 2 years. He's still blaming Obama.
Right.
Say that again.
That's whatever it is. He turned down. Obama signed a bill prohibiting mentally ill folk from buying guns.
Right.
I thought that was right up to. It doesn't determine that everybody's mentally ill on some level, so nobody should have guns. But that's another story. And you know what Trump does? He finds a reason to repeal that bill. I can't imagine.
You know what the reason was? Obama did it. I said to a friend, if Obama found a cure for cancer, Trump would support leukemia.
Oh, that's beautifully written. That's beautifully worded.
Yeah, and because it's the truth. Trump got offended at the press dinner when Obama made all those jokes about him, and everyone was laughing at Trump, and you could see it in his eyes. I'm going to get him, and 2 years into his administration, and he's still talking about Obama. What other president have you ever heard who is dumping on the preceding president? It's never happened. We've never had a president like this. He's a national disgrace. And so much for comedy.
and by the way, and that doesn't eliminate his enablers from taking the blame, his supporters and enablers. How about the Republican senators who sat and watched him do this all this time?
Well, because they're all afraid. It's like, the analogy I use, it's like a herd of gazelle are on the plain, and the lions come and they kill one of the gazelles. And the rest of the herd goes, well, thank God it wasn't me, and continues grazing. I mean, and that's what we've got there. They're afraid, as long as it's somebody else that's taking the rap, and they're safe, they're not going to do anything. But it's the public that has to show these guys and women that we're not going to take this anymore. And the last election showed that they lost. They got beat big time in the House of Representatives. And I think in the next election it's going to be worse. I think that the Senate's going to go Democratic too, because the country, 34% of the nation is diehard Trump followers, but 70% is not. And in the last election, Trump lost the popular vote by 3 million votes. So, he played the electoral out-of-date college, game, and that's how he won. So that and help from Russia and the bots and the false
and help from the Democratic National Committee with Wasserman Schultz and Hillary and Obama combining forces to rig the primaries. Basically, it shouldn't have been her. It should have been Bernie running.
Well, I don't know if Bernie. I don't know if Bernie. He's too much of a socialist for Ohio.
He would have kicked his ass.
Well, we'll see.
She stalked him on stage he wouldn't have allowed that. He just his words when he talks, people really listen.
Because he's saying stuff that people want to hear: free college, free medical, lower drug prices. Everybody wants that,
and everybody has to throw socialism. That's not socialism. Those are socialistic programs. There's a big difference, and they can be achieved if people will get together and tax the very rich. And you could take 2% of $1 billion from each of these guys and make it all work. Or you can religion.
When these middle-class people find out how much they're going to have to pay in taxes this year, then there's going to be an uprising, because they sold this tax reform package as for the middle class, but it's the middle class who is going to take the brunt of the cost. The upper class, the billionaires and the millionaires, they're going to get a tax reduction. It started with Reagan and the trickle down theory. It started with them.
I was just going to say, you're absolutely right.
And
that never trickled down.
It never, it doesn't trickle down. It stays at the top because people are basically greedy. I keep saying to my friends, like people who have $600 billion, how much money do you need? What, is 10 billion enough? Isn't 10 billion enough? Is 10 million enough? How much money do you need? With people starving in this country.
That not only that they have it all, but that the working class has nothing.
It's greed. It's plain, and it's ego, it's selfishness, and it's greed. And it infuriates me. It really does. And how do we end up on this when we're supposed to be talking about my book, Memoir of a Nobody?
Well, I'll tell you what. Next time we'll talk more of your book, but I want you to promise to come back. How about that?
Listen, all you have to do is ask, and I'll come back.
Beautiful. That's what I want to hear, and that you had fun doing this.
Oh yeah, sure, it's great. I love, it's very hard for me to talk, as you can tell.
Yes,
it's like I have like verbal.
You got to bring out
the inner child. You'll never get a yes/no answer from me, but I enjoy doing these conversations. So ask me anytime.
I appreciate that, my friend. You are indeed comfortably zoned. I'm the Zig Zag Man. It is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I thank you for being here, my friend.
Well, let's just tell him one more time. It's Steve Bluestein, and my book, Memoir of a Nobody, is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and iBook, ebook, and Kindle, and Nook. So go out and get it.
All right. Please, that's if this doesn't influence you to go out and get it, you are well spoken, my friend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Take it easy.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, everybody. And remember this, if you would. Be kind to yourselves. You deserve it. Adios.
Bye-bye.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.